In preparation for a video that my boyfriend Scott and I are working on for the music of 1984, I decided to look into my collection and review music from the previous year, kind of as a semi-prep for that event. And, you know, between the records that Scott has given me repeats of from his collection and added to mine, and things that I collected on my own, I wanted to present to you the music of 1983 in my vinyl collection. Now, you know, these are 20 albums. There may be a couple missing from my collection from this year that I haven't found yet, but, you know, there's going to also be a lot of new wave and synth pop in here. It's 1983. The early 80s in particular are one of my favorite times for the synth dance new wave music. And you know, that's kind of made a big comeback in the 2010s in different ways, that sound. And the first one, and some of these albums I actually have on CD as well, including this one, the Eurythmics, Touch. You know, I really enjoyed this album on CD. I loved it on vinyl. I don't know what it was. It just jumped out at me in a whole other way. You know, it starts right out with Here Comes the Rain Again. It's got Who's That Girl? There's Dave Stewart. Some information on the back. Regular RCA label. Don't need to show you that. Next up, we have Quarter Flash. Take Another Picture. There doesn't seem to be any people on this cover, just mannequins. That's a little bit of a creepy picture on the back, perhaps as intended. No custom label there either. I haven't checked all these albums. I like to show only custom labels, you know. The Police, Synchronicity. There's an internet video I haven't seen yet where they talked about how many variations of this cover there were, especially on vinyl, and this is one variation. I have this on CD, and it's a top-loading album. There's Stewart, Andy, and Sting on one side, lyrics on the other. The album slides out this way, and I knew it, this album does have a custom label. I don't know if there's any variations of that custom label. Maybe they're all the same. The next album on the list is Ultravox Quartet. No custom label at all on the Chrysalis label. Fantastic album with Midge Ure. This is a digital album, by the way. It was recorded on digital equipment. I don't know if it sounds better or the same on CD. I'm not really sure. Utopia, Oblivion. This is one of the last records of Todd Rundgren and Utopia I was looking for. It seems like a plain black cover, but it's not. If you look closely, it has Oblivion kind of etched into it. And there's the group etched into it in the back. Right there, I believe, is a mouthless Todd Rundgren. Roger Powell, Willie Wilcox, and Kasim Sultan. This is on Passport Records, and it actually has something of a custom label on it. Great 80s dance rock album. Joan Armatrading. This is one of the first albums by her I ever had on tape. The Key. There's a key down there. Has her initials on it. There's Joan. There's the back of that album, and there's Joan again. Regular A&M label on that album. Joan Armatrading albums are very, 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 very common to find in budget bins around here. And maybe a lot of people don't really want to hear her music anymore. I don't know. She's kind of somewhat of a cult figure in this country, from what I understand. She had some hits, but I don't know. For some reason, people just don't want her records anymore. But I always liked her singer-songwriter rock combinations were always interesting. U2 live, Under a Blood Red Sky. Know what it said? Special low price mini LP. The CD of this was recommended to me by my friend Peter Cummings. Shout out to Peter, who's a humongous U2 fan. This is from their tour for the album War. It's got mini LP on the label. It's on Island. Regular paper sleeve on that. Men Without Hats, Rhythm of Youth. This is the album that has the safety dance on it, on the Backstreet label. I don't think I've shown that label before. If I haven't, there it is. Really happy I found this particular album. Gotta admit. The Fix, Reach the Beach. One thing leads to another is on this album. I always love The Fix, you know. My friend Henrique and I, another shout out to Henrique, we always talk about the funkiness of New Wave and that particular song. Great album. David Bowie! Let's Dance. I had this on vinyl, gave it to my dad, got it on CD, and then my boyfriend gave it back to me on vinyl. Mine didn't have the inside label like that, though. It was the paper sleeve that I had. It's regular EMI label. Spandau Ballet. I love Spandau Ballet, especially after hearing Chant Number 1. I just, their music really moves me. You know, like ABC, I really love that, you know, British soul, funky disco end of the New Romantic, I guess you could call it. The funny thing is, when I first heard True, I must have been tired. It was around 1984, and my parents always tell a story. I fell asleep in the back of the car on a trip from Bar Harbor, Maine. It's just a fantastic song. I really love it. It's got an inner sleeve. There's Spandau. There's some lyrics in the back and some little drawings on the bottom. Billy Idol, Rebel Yell. This has one of my very favorite Billy Idol songs on it. I believe the first Billy Idol song I ever heard. Eyes Without a Face. And then there's Flesh or Fantasy. This album, you know, Billy Idol and Steve Stevens, you know, this album really kind of brought to mind the beginning of, I suppose, what you'd call, you know, electro dance, punk, new wave. This album, like a lot of these, really helped define the MTV generation. There's Billy. You can't see the snarling lip, which he was famous for. He's got a custom label. Billy Idol, Rebel Yell. Clarence Clemens, R.I.P. Famous saxophone player, R&B honker from the E Street Band, and the Clarence Clemens and the Red Bank Rockers. John J.T. Brown does the vocals on this. This is on Columbia Records. I think it still has the original sleeve too. Yep, there's Clarence and the band he was performing with at the time. It's got a custom label just on Columbia. Aldo Nova, Subject. My boyfriend Scott introduced me to him. I had this album on CD. I'm lucky I found it, but I got it on vinyl, a vinyl copy of it last week, and I know it has some ring wear and stuff like that, but he's a very interesting 80s rock person. He plays a lot of different instruments, but And this is kind of somewhat of a concept album he did in 1983. It's not as famous as his first album. I don't know what that is exactly. There's a portrait label, no custom there. John Cougar Mellencamp. This is kind of a transitional album for him because on the album American Fool, of course, he was still using the John Cougar name, but he was putting John Cougar Mellencamp on it now. But, I always know him by this name. Mellencamp stands out for me more than Cougar. This is the album that has pink houses on it. It's got the Riva Records label on it with a lion. Looks like a Thundercat lion, actually. We have, in my parents' collection, we have the Jack and Diane single on the same label. There's John Mellencamp and his family. France Jolie. She's a really big-voiced singer from Quebec. I don't think she was much older than 20 when this particular album came out. It was produced by Pete Bellotte and Giorgio Moroder. Post Donna Summer on Epic Records. You already saw this in my video about the biggest selling albums of all time. Lionel Richie. I need to show you much of that, because you've already seen most of that. Bonnie Tyler. This is another repeat from Scott's collection. He actually has another version of this with, looks like lasers coming out of her ear. I believe it's a Australian edition of the album. This is the one that has Total Eclipse of the Heart on it. There's Bonnie's picture again. Regular Columbia label, no custom. Tony Banks. This guy, he was one of the founding members of Genesis. And he made a number of solo albums, and this is his solo album from 1983. It's a promo record. So I may take that out just to show you the label, but I won't because it's just regular looking kind of thing. Men at Work, Cargo. If I understand it from my friend over at Oddity Archive, Ben Minot, shout out to Ben, this album was originally produced along with a few others using a CX audio encoding technology that was to be used later on certain laser discs. But it's Men at Work's second album. I actually have, I believe, all their records on vinyl now. There's the band. Doesn't have a custom label. But anyway. That's my collection of albums that I could find anyway from 1983. I may be going through the 80s at different points, 1982, 85, 6, 7, whatever, doing profiles like this, but I thought 83 would be pretty fitting for now. So enjoy your music, and until next time, peace.